My interest in all things Catholic, those elements have showed up in my other films, Mean Streets, Taxi Driver to a certain extent, Raging Bull certainly, and many pictures. But I think I approached it from different ways. The idea of the tenets or the beliefs of Christianity in the everyday life that we lead, you know. And so ultimately, I was given the Book of Silence in 1988. It was in August, I believe, or September, by Archbishop Paul Moore, who was the Archbishop of, Episcopal Archbishop of New York, St. John the Divine. He was a supporter of the film I had just made, Last Temptation of Christ, after seeing the film. And so he talked to us about a serious discussion about those elements in that particular film, and those arguments, those concepts, those questions. And then he said, I have a book for you that you should take a look at. It takes the very essence of what you were trying for in your other films and goes deeper. The issue in this particular story, and that should apply to everything we know of today too, and that is the cultural differences, right? How do they deal with the cultural differences of Japan as opposed to Western Europe in the 17th century? They have to understand the culture that they're bringing this gospel, this good news to. They have to understand what the values of the culture are. They have to understand the way people think. The only way to do that is to be with them, know the language, spend time, and then see. And I think the only way they really, it really could work is if their actions are something which the people would want to emulate. How they behave. I think that's the key. And it doesn't have to do with stepping on a fumier, or it's how they relate to the people around them and the love and the compassion they bring. That's the key. The world has changed so much that I think the more serious films, there are many being made, but I don't know if they're being as supported as they used to be. When I come from a time where they were supported strongly, not all of them, but they were. And look, the world has changed. Technology has changed. The way people view films have changed, where they view them. What is a film anyway at this point? Is it a 2-hour picture? Is it 6 hours? Is it 20 minutes? It's wide open, which is good, and it's also dangerous, but it's also a new opportunity. So what happens is that the serious films get made, I believe, but they're not supported in terms of budget. And I don't think the filmmakers are nurtured enough, I think. Nurtured enough. And so I'm concerned that many of these filmmakers, you should be able, at the time, years ago in the 70s, Bob Altman would make a film a year, maybe 2 films a year, you know. Lower budgets, but he still was able to get them out. And here now I find that some of the younger filmmakers who are distinctly personal filmmakers have trouble getting the money to put pictures together. I mean, not all of them do, but a lot of them do. And but you know, the Academy, for example, give the Academy Award to 12 Years a Slave or Spotlight. These are independent pictures. These are serious pictures, you know. So there is that element. I just feel that I came from a time when they were all serious. It took so many years to get Silence made for so many reasons. And during that time, we looked at different areas of the world. And we started with the real places in Japan where Shusaku Endo's novel took place, in Nagasaki, a small village called Satomi, which in the movie is Tomoji, Unzen Hot Springs, so many others. But we didn't film there because it would be too expensive. So in addition to Japan, the production designer Dante Ferretti went to New Zealand, scouted it, Vancouver, Northern California, and finally Taiwan. I even realized we went some places in the American South. But he realized right away that this is where we could make the picture. The landscape was very, very similar. It had so much to offer Taiwan. The coastlines are untouched. The land itself, the landscapes were quite extraordinary. And we had a crew of over 750 people. And it was made up of Taiwanese, Japanese, Australians, Italians, British, and Americans. Yes, it was complex and confusing for a little while at first. There were language barriers, a lot of cultural differences. However, everyone really wanted to make this picture, and they adapted so quickly, and we became blended and like a determined family, really. They were all devoted to helping me and really bring this picture to life on every level. Liam Neeson and I worked together before on Gangs of New York. Karen Hines, I've always admired. He's an extraordinary actor, a great actor, really. So much so, I don't even know he's in which. I see him in movies, and I say, "Who's that guy?" And it's always the same guy. It's Karen Hines. So I never recognize. He's so extremely immersed in the character he plays, I find him to be amazing. Andrew and Adam were new to me. I mean, I'd seen Andrew in Social Network and the Red Riding film and Boy A, I think, and Adam in the Noah Baumbach movie and and Girls, and I really loved him, and I loved his work. And I took the work very seriously, threw themselves into the roles, they say, actually really involved certain hardships, one of which, besides going to travel in Portugal and going on retreat in Wales, religious retreat and all this sort of thing, but when it got to do the picture, they really had to be extremely thin, and they had to eat very, very little during the shooting. We had a nutritionist with us, but it was a physical hardship. And Andrew actually went through and completed the spiritual exercises of the Jesuits. This Father James Martin, who helped him through that, which is an extraordinary achievement. Many of the Japanese actors I'd known and I admired for years in other films. Tadanobu Asano plays the translator, and I'd seen him in pictures by Kiyoshi Kurosawa, in Ichi the Killer, Miike's film, in Shinji Aoyama's films, in Mongol, and I've always loved his work. Shinya Tsukamoto, I knew really as a filmmaker. He's brilliant director. He made incredibly visceral films. Tetsuo, the Iron Man, Electric Dragon, a film called A Snake of June, which is avant-garde, beautiful. In fact, the woman in it, Akira, the woman in Asuna Kurosawa, she plays the wife of Andrew at the end of the film in our picture. He is a very independent filmmaker. He's so independent now, he just shoots his own stuff, edits his own stuff. His latest picture was Fires on the Plain, which was shown in Venice a couple of years ago. But he's a remarkable person and artist. Yoshi Oida was new to me. He's actually written many books on acting. He's worked with Peter Brook for 40 years. Yotsuke Kobutsuka, he played Kichichiro, and also seen him and admire him in many films. But his key, what clicked there with Yotsuke was the audition. He was clear, precisely, right on, and it's a hard role to cast, but we got it with him. We knew it in that audition. And then there's Issei Ogata, plays the Inquisitor. And he's somebody I admired for many years, ever since I saw him in Yi Yi by Edward Yang, where he plays a Japanese businessman. And he in Alexander Sukharov's film, The Sun, S-U-N, in which he plays Emperor Hirohito in the last few days of the war, and his meetings with MacArthur. He's extraordinary. And each of these actors brought more than their artistry. They just brought themselves to the part so much that it was very moving. Rodrigues is somebody who, in a sense, gives up his faith to gain his faith. And that's the paradox. And when we were getting ready to make the picture, I realized that I was trying to create something that had been with me for many years since I was a teenager and when I first wanted to make movies. And as I said earlier, I'd studied for the priesthood, didn't make it. Realized early on that it wasn't my calling. It's certainly a vocation, but it wasn't mine. It was the calling of someone I had admired, a priest, a neighborhood priest who taught us a lot. I wanted to be like him, but that's not the reason to be a priest. And I had this other calling, I guess, and it was making movies. And I had an idea to make a picture about a priest, actually, many years ago. A priest who had the calling, but who needed to take that extra step of getting past his ego and his spiritual pride, because it's the parishioners that have to come first, always. And I realized that this was the picture I was making, in a sense, while I was making it, really, while I was shooting it. I mean, I touched on this before, Mean Streets and certain other pictures, but, you know, here I was 60 years later dealing with the theme that has been with me since I was so young. So Rodrigues and to a certain extent Garupe have to get through themselves. They have to get past themselves and their pride. They have to give it up. They have to give up their egos. They have to be selfless. They have to lose the self, right? Both of them have the illusion that they'll be able to find their own spiritual paths, but of course, it's never the case. I planned to take many shots of nature in different ways. I planned so much over the years. But when I got to the locations, something happened. I realized that if we were able to get the equipment there, because some of these locations are very hard to get to, the landscape itself said a great deal. And so placing the actors within that landscape, placing the different figures, so to speak, it revealed itself to me while I was preparing the picture. And very often on set, too, very often on the location where we were shooting. Getting some experience from shooting a couple of TV pilots to move fast, I began to strip away things there, too, not needing a certain angle, not needing an extra angle here, concentrating on what the landscape, what the hillside looked like, or the mountainside, the mist that came and went mysteriously, the color of the grass, the shapes of the rocks, the ocean, the waves, the caves, all of this, the mud, the extraordinary amount of mud, that we even shot in a typhoon, we shot in the heat. I mean, it was a very, very arduous shoot. A lot of mountain climbing, and some very unpredictable weather, let alone some earthquakes, but aside from that, there was a studio that we worked in Taipei. But, you know, once again, the style of the picture has, half the picture there's incarceration. He's in a prison cell. A cell, granted, it has bars you could see through. You can see right, wooden bars. And that helped me define in my mind visually what was important, to see it from Rodrigues' point of view. 9 films I've done with Dante and his wife Francesca, and you know, he's a genius at what he does. He was also able to create something from nothing, really. You know, if he's given the ability to create something bigger and financially given the support, that's something else. But he can also come up with something that we need, with that very special eye that he has and sense of design, which really also works out to be something that's accurate and for the period, you know. So we just know each other that way. I've always admired his work on all the other films he's made, and he went through a lot of hardships to make this picture, but he came through. He did some beautiful work. This is the second time I worked with, or third time I worked with Rodrigo Prieto, and he was another person in the sense that once we got the camera in that position, we felt that the image was telling us more than what we thought, and he would go with that. The key thing, his lighting is subtle and sensitive. His tone on set is something which is supportive, with humor, but at the same time not necessarily fazed by all the crises. And so the temperament is good, but the ability to try different things, the ability to say, well, can't we have the camera fly over there, like in Wolf of Wall Street, and fly? He'd work it out, you know. I'm very lucky, I think, to have a good relationship with him, and he's a wonderful artist, great artist.
Praying to silence.